SoOud Paris. So guys, very welcome to this fragrance review about a fragrance from the house of SoOud. This is a pretty unknown brand in the fragrance game. It's founded in Paris in 2010 by perfumer Stéphane Humbert Lucas. He's a very talented guy. He has released about 11 fragrances up until now, with his latest release in 2016. Haven't smelled that one, but it's supposed to contain notes of patchouli, cloves, and iris, so it must be very interesting. But it's not the one we are talking about today. This fragrance I have in my collection about 2 years now, and this is called Nur. So for those of you who haven't heard about the fragrances by SoOud, they are available in two concentrations. So this one in particular is an eau fine concentration, that's an eau de parfum. And then you also have parfum nectar, and that's basically a pure parfum, so a better concentration. But as we all know, an eau de parfum in EDP is already very potent in most cases, so you won't be disappointed, I can tell you that. This one is called Nur. So Nur Eau Fine, and this is the presentation. Pretty cool looking box, and it holds the fragrance. It's pretty basic, but it's nice. It's well done. So when you open it up, take out the bottle. This is what you get. So there are 60 ml for the Eau Fine, so for the EDPs, and the Parfum Nectar, so the pure perfume bottles, are smaller, mostly about 30 ml, because they are supposed to be more potent. So guys, this is a cool white looking bottle, which is opaque, transparent in the middle, so you can clearly see how much juice you still have left. This is what I have been using since I have purchased the bottle. Beautiful bottle with a gold sprayer that sprays quite a decent amount of juice. Boom, that's a big mist. Heavy cap, and then you still have some information on the bottom. So that's a long list of ingredients, and you can see the second ingredient is parfum fragrance itself. So there you go for the bottle. Beautiful stuff. So let's discuss the fragrance itself. It's funny. This fragrance is called a herbal leather with powdery, smoky elements to it. That's how they describe it. It has a lot of notes. For instance, the list mentions Artemisia, which is some sort of wormwood. You have chamomile, you have vanilla, you have musk, amber, you have orris root, incense, cedar. It's a pretty complex fragrance, and it has a lot of notes that aren't used in so many fragrances. For instance, I don't know about you, but I haven't smelled a fragrance containing the note of chamomile. And it's interesting because it makes this fragrance extremely unique. I haven't smelled anything remotely close to Nur by SoOud. It's basically as simple as that. This fragrance is one of the most specific, unique fragrances I have ever put my nose on. And I didn't review this up until now because it was so hard to capture what kind of image this fragrance gave me, how I should put it into words, and let's just say I'll give it my best. So first off, I want to say this opens up really herbal, really fresh and bright. Nur is supposed to mean light, Well, it has a light impression, a bright impression, but it's definitely not light in terms of performance, but I will get into that later on. So funny backstory to this fragrance: when I first smelled this, it made me think about my high school years, where I had English class from a teacher that used to smoke like a chimney. So this woman was a very nice lady, but she smoked so many cigarettes. And I was always in front of the classroom. I was sitting in the first row. So whenever we had like a break in between and we came back, I could smell her breath like all the way. It came onto me like crazy. She used to cover it up with these menthol cigarettes, menthol chewing gum, but of course, it didn't help completely to cover up the smell of the smoke. But basically, the scent of her breath made me think about this fragrance. And don't get me wrong, that might sound completely disgusting, but imagine someone's breath is always very damp and foggy. And in this case, you must picture the smoky aspect, but without like the tobacco, because there's no sensation of tobacco in this fragrance, but like the smokiness in her breath without the tobacco. And picture like this could definitely be the incense in this fragrance, because they also mention incense. I can see where the incense is supposed to come through. That's in the opening. Don't think about like Interlude Man, where you get like a thick and aggressive incense with amber. The amber is coming way back in the dry down. But for now, you get like a bright and vivid incense that's not really oppressive, just a friendly sort of incense. That must be something like that must be giving you an idea of what I mean with the smokiness in her breath, like no tobacco, maybe just that little bit of incense. And the menthol, that's another funny part, because like when I did my research on the ingredients, I didn't really know what artemisia was, and artemisia is supposed to be some related to wormwood, um, and it's also a herb that they have been using in in the Chinese culture to treat malaria. So they took the artemisia nuts and they processed it in a way the juice itself should be curative to malaria, so to the disease. So they use it in some sort of traditional medicine to cure an illness. It also mentions that it is supposed to give a menthol vibe to liquor. Um, Absinthe is also something for which they use this type of plant. So a very interesting note that I haven't heard before of, but it gives me the confirmation that the mental impression has to do with the artemisia itself. So figure a smoky menthol, and instantly you are also left with leather. And leather is an interesting note. I love it to bits, but it has to be done right. So you have so many leather-based fragrances, and this is truly remarkable at that, because picture the most expensive sports car or luxury car for that, like a Rolls Royce or an Aston Martin. You open up the door and you get a sensation of that brand new leather, really natural and luxurious, refined. elegant. So that smell, like Tuscan leather by Tom Ford, without the sweetness and without that rugged, aggressive, old kind of leathery smell. Like not nothing like that, but more natural, refined, and a little bit more friendly. Imagine something like that. Or, for instance, by Acqua di Parma, Colonia leather, which is a little less sweet and a little less abrasive than the Tuscan leather cousin, but even more natural, because I have a problem with Acqua di Parma's leather. To me, it doesn't smell all that authentic. It's a good fragrance, but it's not the best leather I've smelled. So picture that kind of leather, very natural, and combine it with that slightly menthol smokiness of the incense and chamomile. Chamomile is something that comes off really unique. Everybody has been drinking chamomile tea at one point in his life, or some have never tasted it, but you probably have smelled it somewhere at a bar without even knowing. It doesn't matter. Chamomile is very soft and gentle. It's very specific, and in this fragrance, it's very, very present. So imagine the smell of chamomile, and let's just say it like this. So you're sitting in that Rolls Royce or that Aston Martin or whatever, and you have a cup of chamomile tea, and you get a little bit of that foggy, airy incense, which is very tame, a very friendly incense, not too dense, not too aggressive. It also has apricot, and apricot is a very fruity note, of course. That would be like the basket of a basket of apricots on the passenger seat. Don't imagine like the sensation of apricot when you're eating it, when you open the fruit and when it smells really sweet. Imagine just like the apricot peel, just enough sweetness to give the other notes some sort of edge to round it up, because it's herbal, it's spicy, it's smoky, it's leathery, it's supposed to be a little sweet as well, you know. After all, this fragrance was released to be for women. Um, I can see this being a very nice fragrance on a woman, but don't get me wrong, I've been wearing it very often, and I've never been told like, oh, you smell like women. So this is completely unisex. Again, so many fragrances are marketed wrong. This one as well. It's definitely a unisex fragrance. But yeah, so Rolls Royce, basket of apricots, a cup of chamomile tea, and the window is open. You're sitting right next to like some sort of woods, with the sun is going down. It's a little bit, it's still a little bit hot from during the day, from the heat during the day, and you have like a log of cedar laying a couple of meters away from the car, and you have a sensation of that cedar with some amber and a little bit of vanilla maybe in the background. That orris root, like this would be a perfect way to describe this fragrance. So it's very, very special, very specific. Like I said, I haven't smelled anything that's really close to this. I can't compare it to any other scent. That's why I'm trying so hard to give you an impression of this scent. Um, but I hope I succeeded. So it's very, very potent, very strong, and it changes a little bit during its lifetime on your skin. It goes a little bit more towards the cedar amber and musky dry down, but it's nothing like the typical fragrance where the musk and the amber and the cedar, or like the woody musky notes, are really overpowering the dry down. In this case, you still get the sensation of the opening throughout. You still get that in the dry down. It's just that it's a little more toned down and the base notes are just a little more present. So very interesting again, because like most fragrances, they go into a bland, musky, woody dry down. In this case, these notes come into play, but the opening notes are still there. Performance excellent, guys. This one, a couple of sprays last me an entire day at least, and it projects great. Sillage is excellent. It's very versatile as well. Even with specific notes like this, like it gives off a very special impression. People will be like, "Whoa, this is interesting. I haven't smelled this before." Even for this type of fragrance, I can see myself wearing this throughout the year. Hot weather, cold weather, to work, to a night out, on a date, casual, dressed up. It doesn't really matter what type of occasion, what time of year, it doesn't matter. This fragrance is very versatile and it suits men and women. I would say this is a little mature for a teenager. I don't think they would be interested in this type of scent because it needs a little bit of appreciation. It needs a little bit of a frag head state of mind, you know, to appreciate this fragrance. But nevertheless, it's very versatile, performs well. 60 ml, but in eau de parfum and EDP lasts me a long time. Like I said, I've been using it a lot and I still have like this much of my bottle. I still have about like 55 or 50 ml at least. Excellent value for money. I think it's cheaper over here in Europe than it is in States, given the fact that it's a French fragrance, so we are it's closer to home. This fragrance costed me about like 130 or 140 euros. I can't really remember. I imagine this being a bit more expensive in the States, but nevertheless, I would definitely suggest, if you are somewhat triggered by my explanation of this fragrance, that you would get a sample if possible. I don't suggest this as a blind buy. As usual, the fragrances are way too specific to just like go around and spend your money on whatever you see that looks interesting. But I can assure you guys 200% it's worth checking out. It's an absolute favorite of mine, and I can definitely suggest you to get your hands on a sample and trying it out on your skin. So whatever is left to say, I'm going to wrap it up here. Interested to know your thoughts on Mule Au Fin. I know a couple of my fragrance buddies have tried it out, so if you're watching this review, please share your thoughts. And for any of my subscribers, do let me know what you think. It's interesting to hear your thoughts. And as usual, thanks so much for the support. Thanks for watching this review. I'll be back soon with something else. I hope you thought it was a nice video. See you in the next one.